Welcome to ABA on Tap, where our goal is to find the best recipe to brew the smoothest, coldest, and best tasting ABA around. I'm Dan Lowry with Mike Rubio, and join us on our journey as we look back into the ingredients to form the best concoction of ABA on tap. In this podcast, we will talk about the history of the ABA brew, how much to consume to achieve the optimum buzz while not getting too drunk, and the recommended pairings to bring to the table. So without further ado, sit back, relax, and always analyze responsibly.
All right. Welcome back to yet another installment of ABA on Tap. I am your grateful co-host, Mike Rubio, along with Mr. Dan Lowry. Mr. Dan, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you in person with a guest in person.
It is a first. We want to give our shout out to our colleague Matt Story for hosting the live recording. We tend to do a lot of work on Zoom because the people we talk to are far, far away. And today we realized that our guest was local. So why not get to sit with her in person and have a chat? Every time I get to the end of my 2-year, my research, there's always a few units that are kind of difficult. And that's ethics. And then what else? Supervision. And I get the feeling that our guest today is going to be able to provide us a lot of supervision insight. And I'm excited for that because it's one of those areas that I think it's difficult to develop, difficult to expand on. You run the risk of kind of hearing similar themes and topics all the time. So super excited to see what we get into. So without further ado, we'd like to introduce Kamila Jacob. All right. Thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend. Lovely Sunday afternoon. It's beautiful outside, so we're going to try to make this a really intriguing 2-hour conversation and move forward from there. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here in person. Usually podcasts, like you mentioned, we do it on Zoom. Yeah. So it's really great to be here in person. Yeah,
that's amazing. We'd like to start with the origin story. We find that most of the people we talk to, even if they're doing something different in application, we've all gone through a similar experience. And we kind of like to share that. Really provides a foundation for the rest of the conversation. So tell us what got you started in ABA from the very beginning, and then what got you to where you are now, and then we can dive into your current projects and sort of examine everything from the beginning to the end and in between.
I love that. I also love hearing people's origin story too, so I'm excited.
Cool. We'll share some of ours.
Well, just like anyone else, I started as a BT. I was at a psychology undergrad program. They required internships. Some were doing paid internships, so we're doing non-paid, and I found one that was paid, so I was really excited about it.
Okay.
Actually, my husband told me about ABA because he had done ABA very, very, very long time ago, and it was very different back then. So it was really interesting to hear his story too. So I was a BT. I worked at a clinic. I thought it was amazing to work with children on the spectrum and find it so rewarding on the skills that they're learning and being able to work with parents. I thought that was so interesting. There was nothing like it. I get to meet the parents and the children. It was at a clinic, and then I had some home sessions as well. Moved on to getting my RBT certification because the company really wanted their BTs to be RBT certified.
Sure.
Then from there on, my husband got a job in Washington. It was a great opportunity, moved there, continued on as a BT. And then from the beginning, I knew I wanted to be a BCBA. Like the first day I went into session, I'm like, I'm going to be a BCBA.
Okay.
So it was really exciting to kind of go from the clinic setting to an all-in-home sessions, which was in Washington. Started my grad school program, moved on to the student analyst role. That was, I would say, a big part of my experience because I had really, really great supervisors and then not so great supervisors.
Okay.
But the great ones made me a better clinician, and I'm forever grateful for that. During my student analyst work, I really wanted to focus on parent training. And I wanted to make sure parents really understood what we were doing when we were going into the home. And even I remember my BCBA, she had like 20 years of experience on me. It was the best compliment I've ever had. And she told me, Kamila, you were meant to do parent training.
Oh, nice.
And I just thought it was so sweet. But in my mind, I thought this was normal. I thought this is what everyone does when they go into ABA, right?
Oh.
One would think.
Yeah.
One would hope. One would hope.
Yeah. So I was heavily involving parents every session, parent training. We would do check-ins, quizzes. I started creating like little curriculums.
Oh, wow.
I got really passionate about it. And then, they started telling about staff training, right? I think you're ready to train some newer BTs as well because you're doing so great with parent training. So then they moved me on to training newer BTs. And in Washington, they don't have a mid-tier position that you can really bill for. So it was under admin, and they let me know it's going to be very low pay. Are you okay with it? I'm like, of course, this is my experience. I need to learn. But I remember back then, a lot of student analysts weren't happy about it, right? They're like, but I'm doing the experience and I want to get paid for it at a higher rate. And I know in California, it's a little bit different because we have the mid-tier model here. So I focused on training new BTs, and then I would always focus on parent training. And a lot of them would come back and say, I haven't talked about parent training with my supervisor. That's interesting. Am I supposed to be doing parent training? So then I felt bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm training them something that they haven't gotten an opportunity to discuss with their supervisor. So then we realized, specifically in the region that I was in, it was so small and we were just growing and growing and growing. I ended up taking on parents who were on a wait list, and I would conduct parent training with them to kind of get them started. Best experience ever. And then I got certified, became a BCBA, got thrown into cases really fast. My supervisor was like, here you go. Here are your cases. I won't be here to supervise you anymore, but I will be here if you need me. So
you figure it out now.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience.
You seem to be good at your job. So now we're going to do less for you, throw you right in.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the story so many times. And it's interesting because, for somebody that's interested and dedicated and really willing to do the work, you'd think you'd want to invest more time in those younger professionals, but it ends up being, the need. It looks like you're good. Go do your thing, and that means, we're off. We're off. Yeah.
And I have a lot to say about that when supervisors only provide positive feedback. So.
We can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. So, and I think there's also this idea of because you're certified, you're okay to be on your own. But I still think to this day, actually, a lot of newly certified BCBAs need a lot of support.
They don't think they do, though, because they know everything. But...
That's Dan's.
Nobody knows more than a new BCBA.
That's Dan's favorite joke. Well, nobody should get paid more than a brand new BCBA.
That's true.
Oh, boy.
All right, we digress.
So I became certified. And again, I still was taking on those parents that were on a wait list. And it was such a great opportunity for these families because they had the foundational knowledge of ABA and what to expect. I heavily studied the Ruby curriculum. So I would do the Ruby curriculum with them. And then I would also continue that with them as we would start on sessions too. And I loved parent training. Like I told them, if you have a difficult family, I will work with them because a lot of the times it's not you against them. They're still the expert, right? This is still their child.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a kid back then, but I just understood what it would be like, right? We're not there 24 hours a day. We're there maybe 3 hours a day, if that.
Yep.
It's a really long session now that I think back.
Not for a lot of providers, but I would agree 100%.
Yeah. I remember I was doing those 3-hour sessions. I'm like, whew, it's a workout.
Then I hear people doing 5-6 hour sessions, and I'm like, I have no idea. I was burnt at 3.
I'm doing a lot of BCBA Direct these days. There's a 4-hour session that I have with 2 siblings. That, like you said, it's a workout. Afterwards, I'm tired. I'm tired. There's no other way to put it, right? I'm exhausted mentally. I'm exhausted physically. They're younger, so
especially when you put in a lot of passion and excitement.
That's
you're like,
play.
That was a workout.
Yep. I feel it.
So then the second piece of that is my job is to supervise BTs, right? So the first thing I would look at is, okay, are they a brand new BT or are they an experienced BT? Because yes, my approach will be different. However, I still want to make sure that they're competent enough to run a session and be comfortable to come to me, being able to run parent training sessions, because that was important to me. As much as I loved having those meetings too, I want the BT to be involved with the parent just as much as I am, because they are there in the home a lot more than I am. So, I've learned a lot about personality. So that was a really fun thing for me to learn is, okay, every person has a specific personality that you're going to learn, right? And some BTs are very open to working with clinicians, whether it was a transfer case or a brand new case. And some are closed-minded, right? Or some have very specific ways that they want to run things. But I'm not going to take that against them, right? Sure. They might not know or have enough information to know what else can we try. Or just because the other BCBA has tried this way and it was probably working for a long period of time, how can I work with this BT, not to just say, I'm going to change your mind? How can we work together to, let's try this together and see if that works, right? So I've really loved the mentorship part of supervising BTs, and I was nowhere near ready to sign those supervision agreements.
Okay.
They asked me, they said, can you be my supervisor? I want to do my field work. I said, no, I want to get my experience of supervising BTs first. Wow. So I waited a little bit until I signed those contracts, just because I wanted to make sure that I felt confident in even signing those contracts and providing them the mentorship that they needed. Because when it comes to field work, it's a lot. And I think that's something that a lot of clinicians don't understand. They think it's just hours and meetings. It's so much more than that, especially for my experience. Yes, I had an amazing BCBA that supported me through my fieldwork experience. But then I also had one that was like, sure, just do that and I'll sign your hours. And then we never talked about it. And I had so many questions and those questions were not answered. So I was honest with my BTs. I said, I'm sorry, I think you can find another supervisor at this time. I have, her that she can sign your hours. She had like 5 years of experience. I'm like, she's been doing this. She can sign your contract. So I waited, and then we wanted to move back to SoCal because I missed the sun so much. Washington was rough.
Rain.
Yes, it's the gray. It's not so much the rain. It's the gray.
Mist, right? Just kind of.
Yeah, and then we have some hard rain days, but it was just rough not having sun.
Yeah.
So we decided to.
We ordered the sun up for you today.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So beautiful today. So we decided to move to San Diego. Love it here. Went into a clinic that did both in-home and clinic. And that was one barrier I noticed at the clinic was they were not running parent training sessions.
Imagine that.
So that was interesting. And I was going out of my way to meet with the parents. And I remember someone came up to me and said, why are you meeting with them outside of the clinic? They're coming here to pick up the child. Just talk to them here. That's not enough for me. I need like 45 minutes or an hour to review everything. So sometimes we would split the sessions and go into their homes, or I would have a video call chat with them as well. And then that's where I was ready to sign the supervision agreement. And I felt confident that I'm able to support the trainees collecting their fieldwork hours. So I heavily focused on that, loved it. It was amazing to just see them grow. I had one that I started from the beginning that passed their exam. So it was really rewarding. I'm like,
Absolutely.
I went through this with you.
You know that.
Yep.
Yeah. And then some were in the middle or some were really early on. And the way that I work, or the way that my personality is, I like to be challenged. I wanted something more. So I went and took a clinical director job. So I transitioned, very big change. I still thought I was very new, right? I didn't think I was prepared. However, when I was interviewing, I was not interviewing for the clinical director position. So it was really interesting. It was just a BCBA position.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
But they offered you the clinical director, okay?
And I still love her to this day. She mentored me the whole time I was there in my clinical director position, and just really believed in me as a clinician. And she told me that just because I was certified this year doesn't mean that I don't have the experience to support staff or parent training. And that's something that they were looking for. And just something, someone that was passionate and really wanting to provide the best care for children as well. So
that's a lot of it, honestly, like the passion and the
Yeah.
desire. Like
Yeah.
you can teach the educational skills, but
Yeah.
the passion's important.
yeah, absolutely. So I took that on. It was hard work for sure. I learned a lot. There were things that I never experienced before, clients, families. That's where I really focused on mentorship with trainees. I oversaw so many trainees, mid-level supervisors, new BTs, experienced BTs. I did some of the training, and then I was focusing on the parent training at the same time. And then, all the other clinical director tasks that you have to do on top of that. It's a lot. And I loved it. Really passionate about it. I really enjoyed it. But we wanted to start a family, and at the end of my maternity leave, she was 4 months old, and I looked at her and I was like, I don't think I can put you to daycare. I knew I always wanted to be a mom, and I loved it so much. And my husband and I were trying to figure out, okay, well, maybe we'll just switch back and forth between meetings. It's not possible with the 4-month-old.
Not as a clinical director.
Yeah, and I was working really long hours, like 12 hours some days. So it was a lot. So I put in my resignation and I stayed home with her.
They were bummed.
They were sad, but I was...
What can we do for you, Kamila? What? It's a raise. You need a
I was
raise.
gonna say, and of course,
right?
if the issue is
it's
hours,
money.
it's always
the,
money.
The money is the issue. Money. Not that you're working 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like they were pretty kind about it. They weren't making you work 12 hours a day. You wanted to put that work
I mean,
forward.
it was my choice, right? There's certain days that I chose, or like if I started my day later, like when I'm 36 weeks pregnant, the last thing I want to do is an 8 a.m. meeting.
Sure,
I'm like, can we push that to like 9 a.m.? So during that time, I told my husband, I've been feeling really inspired. I really want to provide something for the field. And he's head of engineering at a visual ed tech company.
Fantastic.
He's extremely intelligent, and I know he can build something. It's time, right? So he told me, let's talk about it. Let's see what we can do. He knew my passion, and he was like, but I know you probably have 100 ideas. You don't just have one. So we narrowed down to one. I said, I want to do something with parent training, but there will be time for that and it will happen. And I totally forgot to mention, after my clinical director role, I took on a parenting specialty part-time job. I've just kept blabbering on. But actually, just really quickly though, it was at a mental health company. And it was the best experience I ever had when it came to parent training, because these parents had no experience in ABA. They didn't know what ABA was. A lot of their children were diagnosed with other diagnoses, not just autism. It was the best. We tried to make it work. It was about 2 hours a day, part-time, remote, and my husband would watch my toddler. And it got harder when she got older. She knew I was in the home.
Right.
So
they get mobile.
yes. And at the same time, around Christmas time, we were developing MentraTrack. So he told me, I think it's time that you focus on MentraTrack, and I will continue to support you. And it was just the best decision I ever made, because we created something amazing. I just had to put that in there because we're glad you did. Think about parenting specialty services, you think of just towards an ABA company, right? But this was such a unique experience, and I loved it, and I wish I could continue to do it, but it's just, the timing is not right now.
When you might think specific to autism, or so you're opening it up a little bit more, and we like that. We like to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
With kids without autism also need support sometimes.
Apparently, Kamila's going to tell us all about that in a little bit.
Who knew?
You've given us a ton to unpack, Mr. Dan. You've been busy on social media over there. What kind of questions did you come up
By
with?
social media, you mean taking notes. So I do want to go all the way back. But before we go all the way back, you said that you were explaining ABA to parents. How do you explain ABA to parents? Like what? Pretend I'm a parent. Like explain ABA to me. What do you say?
So one of the things that I focused on is remove the jargon.
Okay.
They don't care about your terminology just because you're studying it and you're learning it right now. That's the last thing they want to hear.
But it sounds so fancy.
It does, and I
We
love
need
it.
more syllables. More syllables.
And there was moments where I would say a word, then I go, you know what? Let me go back. Let me rephrase that because this is what it actually means. And I think I'm confusing it. Am I confusing you? And they would look at me. I'm confused.
See, now you sounded super smart. I'm going to say super smart jargon, and then I'm going to explain it in a super smart way. That's awesome.
Won't find that in any book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. To me, the best way to explain something to a parent was, to me, rapport is so important. But I would use my husband as an example, like random friends. I would use random examples at a grocery store to apply what I'm explaining to their child. They're more likely to understand that versus me saying something from the Cooper book.
Sure.
So it's a lot of real examples, adult examples, and then being like, okay, now we can kind of change that into a child example. Like, do you understand? Like when I would explain sensory, right? Because they would say sensory is just hand flapping and turning and rocking. No, it's so much more than that, right?
We have other senses.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yes. Yeah. So that's how I would explain it.
Okay. Yeah, that was always a challenge, I feel like. So Mike and I have been in the field he was my original supervisor.
So it's 15 years
ago?
Together.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I'll enter this fall, I just entered my 29th year, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a lot of experience.
In or around the field. Child development and special ed and ABA. Yeah.
We relate so much to what you're saying because the last company, the company before the last one bought out that company. Mm-hmm. We kind of had free reign for 8 years-ish, somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere
you
in
were
that
better
range.
part of 10 years, probably.
Yeah. So Mike was director of
Early child
development. I don't even remember what my title was, director of operations or somewhere in that lane. But we created parent training curriculum because we just saw it was so important. We created parent groups, which I ran for the better part of 8 years. It was exciting. We ran some in person and then COVID hit, so it kind of went to live stream. But there was just so much dynamism, and it's so cool to see parents like in a room and just being able to share examples and things like that, because especially newer parents, they just a lot of time got a diagnosis. They've got a child, a lot of times it's either their first child or certainly their first child with autism. They don't know if it's quote unquote normal what their child's doing. They just have all these questions. And if we hit them with these big terms, it doesn't help anything. So hearing another parent be like, yeah, my child used to do that too, was just so nice and so empowering for these parents. And we did that. We started dads groups because usually it was moms and they were like, my husband needs to hear this. And I go home and I tell him and he doesn't listen to me. So you got to tell him. So we would do dads groups, and that was super cool and really enlightening. And it was actually really cool because we'd have a lot of military in San Diego and things like that, and you would see these dads that were like military dads and had been to war and stuff like that. Would talk about my child's first IEP was the hardest thing I've ever been to, and it's like wow, that's cool. And hearing it from their perspective, right? Because traditionally we would just hear the situations from the mom perspective and we'd hear from the dad's perspective, like, yeah, I was working all day and I got home and I wasn't part of the session, but my wife's mad at me because I don't know what to do. I'm trying to help out. So I'm just sharing this for you because we've been huge into the parent involvement and we thought it was something that's been lacking for a long time. So we really relate to that. At our new company, we have one parent group that started. We do it on Mondays. It's one of the things that some of the parents that knew us from our previous company were so excited. Because parent training is so important. So many parents, not as much anymore, but still sometimes they would call and they'd be like, well, I've heard somebody gets 40 hours. Will you give my kid 40 hours? And it's like, no, we won't, but we'll give you as many hours as you want as the parent, because you're going to be with that kid. We're going to be with them a couple hours a day. You'll be with them a lot longer. So it doesn't matter whether we give them 2 hours or 12 hours in a day, you're still going to be with them way longer.
Yeah.
So, we've been a huge proponent, and it's awesome to hear kind of your journey because we really vibe with that.
I'm going to date myself here, but I'm from back in the day where you'd go in for the intake evaluation, and one of the questions was, do you have a space in your home that's isolated so that we can do our discrete trial training? Meaning, we're going to exclude you from the beginning, mom and dad.
Oh, no.
Because a lot of it was logistics. A lot of it was behavior management. We've got a young BT. And yeah, if mom and dad are around, it's going to be a lot harder to gain this instructional control idea.
And then they tantrum, and now that's attention-seeking
And
behavior.
and that must be, we're back to the diagnostic traits as opposed to the idea that this is a 5-year-old and you're forcing them to do something and they're advocating for themselves and you're failing to reinforce that aspect of it. So it's come a long way, and I'm happy to see that, especially given that I come from more of a developmental track. So without getting too far into my background, I did really well early on after undergrad as a young professional in this developmental lab school where it was idyllic and everything was built for 2 to 5-year-olds, and got good at handling the 4 to 5-year-old boys' behavior, running around in packs and terrorizing the girls. I could get them to sit at snack and listen.
That's 4 to 5-year-old boy bit. That stops at 5.
I don't know. I don't know if it stops at 5. All I know is it stopped at 5 there.
I don't know if it stops at 4.
So you're speaking for yourself.
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. Kaylee would say it never leaves.
So I had colleagues go, hey, you should really look into that. You're good with behavior. And I, took a shift over to a job at a non-public school, and it was just a stark contrast. It was crazy from environment to environment, and being like, why is this so sterile? How come there's no materials available? Oh, because they throw them. So your answer was to remove them completely. When do they come back? Never? Well, then how do we ever resolve the behavioral issue? So, again, I'm skipping a lot of details there. And I think that we just do a lot of very restrictive things sometimes in the name of behavior management. You're talking about something much more open-ended. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the first things you said, I think you said your husband was in ABA before you, right? And I think you said it was very different then. What do you mean by that?
Well, the way that he explained data collection to me didn't seem like there was a lot of data collection.
Okay.
And he's 5 years older than me. Yeah. He told me one of their sessions was at a basketball court, which I love. Environmental play. We love that. Being able to have that freedom, right? Not be so restrictive, always in the home. I also love community outings. They're the best.
Sure.
Grocery stores. We're going to work on it. So just the way they explained to me, and then certain terminology and certain behavior modification, it just wasn't quite there. It was just very loose and flexible. And when I told him, this is what we do at the clinic, and he was like, this is very different and it's a lot more developed. And I'm trying to think how long ago that was. It had to be when he was in high school, I want to say, or maybe straight out of high school. It was just very different than we were doing, because when I started my BT role, it was data collection, very strict, right? This is what we're going to do. And these are the behaviors we're going to work on. And these are the interventions. And then you have these parents. He never did parent training. I don't think he met the parents either. It seemed like a very different setting that he was doing, but they called it ABA.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting how that's all evolved, right? So I know that where we first started, there was a lot of teach influence in that ABA. I think a lot of that's also become pervasive. So a lot of the visual icons, things that I think have been adapted. It's not to say that it's not ABA or can't be used, to strengthen a contingency or whatnot. But it's been interesting to see that throughout our career. And we've become maybe a little bit more. So the idea of structure, I think, is something we like to talk about, which you're mentioning, again, going back to our start, right? We had the huge 3-ring binders that looked like unabridged dictionaries that just had copious amounts of papers and stuff that, in my opinion, really detracted from the interaction. So it was like the texting and driving, right?
Yeah.
So it's really terrible interaction. And then, you can go too far to the other side and you're not collecting data. Talk to us a little bit about the middle ground, the right amount, and what your opinion is on that.
Yeah. So when I was in Washington, I had a BT that was very much focused on data. And this doesn't mean they shouldn't be, right? We need data. We need to analyze the data, right? But it was at the point where it was taking away from the interaction with the child. And I noticed that, and I let her know, okay, you tracked your data. Let's go back and connect with the child, right? We need to always be pairing. Pairing is so important. It's not something that you just do at the beginning. Pairing is constant. Same with the parents as well. So the way that I would train BTs and work with them is, yes, some of them have iPads. I did pen and paper when I was in Washington. It was really hard graphing that.
We did that for years, and then we would transfer it to the Excel sheet for the report, and man.
And you couldn't connect the dots freehand. Had to be a ruler.
That's true. It had to be a ruler.
Otherwise, apparently, it throws off your entire function.
Just like if you don't do 10 trials.
I mean, it made no sense to me mathematically, but man, if you didn't do it, you were in trouble. So negative reinforcement all around. I'm doing it. Get off my back. Anyway, continue.
So the way that I would work with BTs is, my goal is, I don't want this session to be so, I'm going to use the word rigid and structured, right? There can be some structure. I want the child to enjoy their session. That's my number one goal. I want them to be excited to see the BT. And sometimes that might not be the case with the older clients, right? They might say, oh, you again. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I know you don't want to see me, but I have some fun games we can play today. So maybe you'll forgive me, right? But for the BT to know, how can we balance the session out so it's not so rigid? There's some BTs that are so heavily focused on flashcards, and they think that they can only run that program through a flashcard. Flashcards are great. My toddler loves them, and then the next day she hates them, right? That's normal too. So I would try to focus on the balance of, can we teach this another way? It's not more work. It's more fun. Yeah. It could feel also more natural for BTs. And I had BTs that were very transparent with me and said, I've only done flashcards with my previous supervisor. And we sit at the table and we do work for an hour, 2 hours. And then the only break that the child gets is from that table. But that break, they're not even interacting with the BT because they're working for the break to remove the BT.
Isn't that weird? You talked about data, right? So historically, the way ABA sessions would work, right, is we would run our programs and then we would take data while they're on a break. So we then just remove ourselves from all the fun stuff. We present the not fun stuff, and then we take the data and then they do the fun stuff. It's so...
Motivation is only extrinsic. Motivation is only tangible. There's no way our interaction could have been motivating after a set of trials. It's called rapport. Is that what?
What?
Rapport? Is that what we call it?
Or with flashcards, we deconstruct their whole environment and then we put it into flashcards. It's like we can't play in the environment. We got to take the picture of the car and put it on a flashcard. And then they can identify the flashcard, but not an actual car. I like, you used the word structured, both of you did, but you've kind of changed your terminology, I think, and it's been a pretty effective.
We talk about adult-directed versus child-directed, and that resonates with me, and I think it creates a conversation for that dance. I'm very keen on early intervention, even pre-diagnostic. So for me, coming from a developmental background, that child-directed play-based orientation is key. And there's almost no other way to start, in my opinion. And then the idea that once you do that enough, guess what happens if you are respectfully in a child's space over time and talking to them and showing them stuff? One day you're going to show up and they're going to get right next to you. And then that's your cue. Now you might be able to direct something that you've planned. I like the way you described it too. It's not just that you come in there completely willy-nilly, but there's a certain, ego you have to put aside when you've overly structured your session and you get there and a 4 or 5-year-old, 6-year-old completely sabotages it, as they're built to do, whether they have autism or not. That's what young kids are supposed to do. Oh, this is your plan? Let me try to completely mess it up, and then let's see what you do in response. And
Mike has a 4-year-old of his own.
Yeah, I do. I have 19, 16, and 4. So I've I had to have the. What do you say, Dan? I had to have the 4-year-old to bring up my chops. I was getting a little rusty, so I had to get another child to make sure I could stay honest with my chops. But no, I like that, and it's hard to teach that. To RBTs, for example. That's difficult. A lot of them will say, it's a lot harder. And it's like, well, you either put in all the thought process on the front end and then realize that you're going to have to improvise a little bit, or maybe get overly authoritarian in your session, and then you're having behaviors that may or may not be related to the actual child. They might be telling you no on something and you're just not listening because your plan is so nicely structured. And then on the other end, you can be ready when they're not interested in 50 things you brought. What's 51? You're going to have to come up with something, right? In order to get back to build that rapport, to let them know that you acknowledge their negation. Oh, you're not, you're saying no. I'm going to listen. I'm backing up. That's part of rapport too. I'm going to pay attention to what you're saying. And then I'm going to express interest in what you're doing. And then maybe I have to figure out how that stimulus fits into my plan in terms of these goals that I have to take data on.
Be a little more creative.
It's and I can see where it's a little more difficult. Yeah. What I like about the more open-ended child-directed piece and some of the techniques that we've taken from other brilliant people is how much we've created a situation where the BT is forced to pay attention. So things like contingent imitation. We're going to do what the child's doing within reason and respectfully. We're going to linguistically map what's happening in the environment and what we're doing. And those two things serve one purpose. I don't want you to take data on that because you're the one that's throwing out the behavior, but you can't contingently imitate or linguistically map without paying full attention to that child and their surrounding environment. And it works. Again, the creativity maybe comes a little more easily because you understand what makes them tick, what they don't want to do. You get to learn what everybody else has forced them to do.
That's right.
I was working with a child just this past week, and the concern was getting, through challenges with homework or academic tasks, right? And we were doing just fine, and the parent walks in, and immediately the child shuts down. And she starts offering, very rightfully so, very logically offering correction and all these grammatical rules, and, telling me, you were supposed to make him read that sentence before he had to do it. And it's like, he was actually answering the questions okay, and now he's shutting down. And I, had a conversation with that parent saying, you're not doing anything wrong. However, is he doing what you would expect him to do after you put forth your help? Well, no, he just withdraws. Okay, so who needs to change here? He wasn't doing that with me. It's not to say that I was doing everything perfectly, or we're also lacking the reinforcement history. But that's what we're seeing here is you showed up and it was like, oh no. And I think a lot of it too, without being able to quantify it, the child was just afraid to let to see their parents' disappointment. So that was part of their frustration. I could see immediately where she corrected him and he was like, oh, like I didn't want you to correct me, and then let me try again quickly, and I got it wrong again. So you just saw this decline. It was like, okay, yes, he's going to change his behavior, but guess who gets to change it first?
There's history, but yep. That's a hard one for parents.
Yeah, he was doing so well for you, and then I came in. I know, weird, right? I wonder what it was. Let me do a quick analysis here. That'd have been you. And again, the great mom, great responsive parent, not, you look at the whole scene and it would be easy to go, wow, that child has discipline problems. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no, but they were responding differently just 2 minutes ago. And now we've got this reinforcement history that kicked right in. Yeah. And there we go. I mean, you get to deal with this stuff all the time. How do you, talk to a parent who immediately says, oh, you're saying it's my fault, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. Yeah. Oh, wait, you're saying but my child's the one that has the diagnosis and the behavior issues. They need to change. You're saying that's the parent?
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
It's a hard one. And, I had parents cry during parent training sessions, and I had parents straight up ask me, like, so is this my fault? Right? And I'm not going to go and say, yes, this is your fault. Right. I'm like, okay, how do I explain this in a professional way? But I also need to be empathetic too, right? To their situation. Yeah. So the way that I have conversations with families, I haven't seen a lot of clinicians do this, and I heavily focus on training this to my trainees, is you need to be transparent, honest, kind, but you can still be firm, kind but firm, right? And that's some of the approaches that I took when I did parenting specialty courses as well. We don't need to yell. to give an instruction. It's just as effective if we go there, eye level, eye to eye, and calmly repeat that instruction, right? And a lot of parents don't know that. So with families, when they either disagree with a parent training intervention or they feel like they've done something wrong, I focus on what can we do next? Let's not focus on the moment right now, especially when they're frustrated. Well, first, I want to make sure they're calmed down and I highlight the positives that their child has done, right? And I explain the science behind it in a normal way where they can understand, right? The history of reinforcement, the way that the dad has responded, the way that mom has responded, right? And then focusing on, yes, we have data to support that when he does this, and you respond this way, this is what happens. We come back and we look at the data in the best way possible where the parent understands. And sometimes I had parents that say your data is not correct, right? So then you have to have a different conversation outside of that. And it's almost like a 2-hour meeting because now you have a parent who doesn't believe your data, right? And that's a hard one. And that's okay. I think there are some parents that don't want to change their own behavior. And that's not something I can do, right?
That's really hard.
I try and I do my best, and I'm so proud of the ones where I have been able to help support change their behavior so that they're able to better support their child. But there are some parents that I haven't been able to because they would come back and say, I'm not doing that. I'm going to continue using timeout. This is what we do, right? And this works. And then I always come back to the behavior is continuing to happen, right? Has it been successful? Let's talk about that a little bit more. So, again, being very calm, passionate, respectful, I always come back to it is your child. You are the expert. I'm not here sitting telling you what to do. I'm here to help you and support you. I want to work together, right? Can we try this for 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, and then come back? And if it's still not working, we will reevaluate and we will look into something else. We will look at the data. We will be here. Just because I tell them to run an intervention doesn't mean that they will agree to do it, or it does not mean that they're happy to do it. I've had some parents that say, I guess I could do that, but I'm not really happy to do it. But then we're not going to do it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. It needs to feel not just natural, but I mean, it's so unnatural for some parents to do certain things, right? And they're like, I've never done this before. And I always come back to in ABA parent training, it's not just parent training in ABA. I think of it as so much more.
Sure.
And that's what I loved about the position that I did at the mental health company is it was amazing. It was all telehealth. Like to see the parents graduate, I never met the kid. Ever. They worked with a therapist, an LMFT. I collaborate with the LMFT once or twice a week.
Cool.
It was amazing. I got so much insight.
I know more about that.
It was beautiful. And I got to understand, if they had depressive symptoms, my intervention changes, right? Because I have to stay within my scope and follow my ethics and make sure that I'm doing things correctly. We had clients that were suicidal. So interventions were very different and modified. And for parents to come back and say, I wish I knew more about like just being a parent because that's what they ended up learning too, right?
Sure.
I know that was a very long answer to your question, but
It's great. That was great. You covered a lot of ground.
yeah.
We actually changed. So we used to call it parent training when we first did it, and we changed it to parent education.
I love that.
Because
Parent education and ABA almost specifically.
parent
right?
ABA education. Yeah, because I mean, I'm not a parent, and I would run a lot of these courses, and who am I to train anybody on how to be a parent?
I like the way you would put it too in the beginning, right? Like, hey, because usually the kid was in group and then the parent would drop them off and they would come sit with us. And it was like, your kid made it here. They're dressed, they've eaten, they've maybe brushed their teeth a few times this week. We don't need to train you on that. You know how to be a parent. Your child is safe and sound.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're saying there's some behaviors that create challenges for you, your child, perhaps your family. Maybe some of those are exhibited in schools. And I think it was a very important distinction. As you were talking, one thing that resonated with me is we're always under this impression that something's wrong and needs to get fixed.
Yeah.
And I think that is not entirely untrue. However, if you lead with that, it might cause a lot more frustration. In the way you were talking about addressing parents and sort of the empowerment process you go with them, it just made me think, so much of the interventions that We offer parents sometimes want them to be hacks, and we can do that. But if all you're doing are behavioral change hacks, you're not going to get through the actual process. And again, that's what you're talking about is what I'm telling you to do may not change the behavior in that moment. It may not lead to the desired behavior in that moment. I'm asking you to put it forth. It makes me think of I'm currently doing some PT for a torn rotator, and it's very analogous. I was talking to my physical therapist, and she was like, yeah, if you don't do the work, it's not going to get better. And if you do a little bit of the work, you'll notice a little bit of improvement, and hopefully that's enough to make you propel forward, or it might hurt and be sore enough that then you don't do it. And I was like, oh, that's exactly what I have to do with clients and parents, right? Because we want this magic wand, we want this trick, but that's not what it is. And I think a lot of the ABA that I was exposed to early on was a lot about just making the crying stop. And I think we've learned so much more about that. And it's not to say that you want the crying to endure, but the idea that you're just going to flip a switch and make it stop, that's not the case. Not the case.
I've told parents, this is my favorite thing to say, my job is to not make your child stop crying. They will always cry.
Sure. There's a quote that we put in our pro. We're doing a pro for parents, and one of the quotes is, "Your job isn't to make the child not have a tantrum. It's for you to not have a tantrum while they're having a tantrum."
Yes. Reaction.
Yep.
Let's I'm going to have to skip into this just because you mentioned that. I like to say here on the show and everywhere else, and to the parent I was talking to last week, these things I'm telling you, I can preach them all day long. And then I have to go home to my 4-year-old. Share with us a little bit about that. So the staying calm. It's a great idea. It's perfect in theory. It's exactly what we're supposed to do. And then you have to go home to your child. What's your success rate? How does that work for you?
How much better did
Nobody's
having your
perfect.
own child make you a parent training?
Yeah. I would say it definitely made me more passionate, if not. I don't know how else to explain, but when I had my daughter and I was doing the parenting specialty position, I would always use examples with my daughter, and that always helps during parent training, right? And she's so little too, and they're like, well, it's not like she can do much, but it's so much beyond of just behavior management, right? A lot of the work that I focused on, I think you pointed this out a little bit, is connection is so important between a parent and a child relationship. And that's something that unfortunately, I didn't see in some of the sessions, whether I was in a clinical director position, the parenting specialties position, and the parent would mention, I don't really play with them because they don't ask me to play with them. And, a lot of the times we figure out there's no one-on-one time with your child. And we have these, I would let's start with 5 minutes a day. And then the parent comes back, oh my gosh, it was amazing. Yeah. It was so great. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, great. Let's do 10 minutes. You're doing great. Move on to 10 minets. And then we get up to 30 minutes.
But don't you have to do 5 minutes across 10 sessions before you can move on?
No.
What?
Percent correct, right? 80%.
It's got to be 80% across 3 people. You can't move on before you
2
do
environments.
It has to be very specific. Very specific.
Or you can't.
No, now we failed the program.
Yes, absolutely.
Now we can't do anything else.
Now the RBT doesn't know how to run this.
Yeah. I had a BT
this is so well planned. Nobody knows how to execute it.
Yeah. So I definitely think having her and it's amazing because there's certain situations. I mean, she's tantruming right now. I'll be honest.
Right now?
She has her tantrum. No, right now she's sleeping.
You sensed it. Your spidey sense. Yeah,
she might tantrum when she wakes up.
My 4-year-old might be throwing a tantrum right now.
And even when I would read a lot of parenting books and stuff and podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, and I always come back to, I don't want the child to learn something from yelling or punishment, right? And that's what a lot of parents come to me to is they say, well, they did this and I'm not happy with it. I'm so disappointed. So I sent them to their room. That's what they wanted. They wanted to go to their room, and we, determine later on that's what happened, right? So with her, the biggest thing I try to remember is I need to stay calm and I need to stay present, right? She cannot communicate to me right now. She has phrases that she's saying and it's great, but can she communicate when she's really upset and frustrated? No, she's crying. she does this thing where she drops to the ground and does like the Superman, and then she looks up to see if I'm looking, and I'm there. I'm making sure she's safe and she's okay.
The Superman.
It's so interesting.
That's when you flail your arms and legs at the same time on
You
the
should
floor.
give her a cape when she does Superman. That would be
You
good.
could put a towel on her.
Yeah, put it. You're Pete
Live-
Superman. Here you go.
In the moment interventions here on ABA on tap. What do you do when your child tantrums and throws himself on the floor and flails tummy down?
Give him a cape.
Give him a
Yep.
cape.
Yeah.
Superman.
Great one. Watch me send you a picture of like,
The
here, it's
Superman
working.
tantrum.
Please do. Please do.
So I remember that, and then I think about I'm not going to ignore certain behaviors just because she's misbehaving, and I'm quoting, right? She's not
what?
misbehaving. She's truly having a hard time, like with Legos, for example. We were doing Legos. She does like the huge Legos. It's so exciting. She can stack them and play with them. But there was a piece that I was taking apart, and she got really frustrated. I'm so sorry. That was completely my fault. Versus, I think of situations when I was a BT and my supervisor would tell me, oh no, now remove the token because he cried because you did this. But it was my fault. I did that.
They need to say, I want Lego. It has to be those 3 words before you can stop ignoring them. It's ABA.
Well, the Lego would have to be a separate icon. You put it onto the center strip. With the,
Correct. And it can be, can I have Lego?
And we can't accept pointing either.
Nope.
Apparently.
I want
not if you're running PECs. No, you can't. Your data will be skewed.
Yeah.
We get a little facetious here with the old school ABA.
Yeah.
No, for just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
I really want to highlight the importance of what you're saying with she's truly having a hard time versus misbehaving. I don't know if there's anything else you can lend. I mean, that's such a hard concept to try and understand, to relay to parents. The idea that you talk about this very well. Crying as communication. Now, crying as a stimulus that's going to alert us instinctively as parents that there might be something wrong that we have to fix. Child might be in danger, which, without these larger foreheads, maybe that would be the case every time. But now we can work ourselves up into that frenzy. Socially, we can look at it as misbehavior or a lack of discipline. And you're saying the child's truly just expressing what they feel in that moment. That's the way it sounds. And you got to work to do it.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had
That's a hard
BTs.
bargain to sell. That's not easy to sell.
Oh, it is. And I mean, I had BTs that would say, but you're reinforcing it.
Ooh.
Right?
Maybe.
I'm a BCBA and the BT is telling me that. I'm like, but they truly want their mom. It's like a 3-year-old. They're saying, I want mom. So we're just going to say no to mom. And this was before I even had a kid too.
What a great quandary, right? Do I reinforce the communication or do I punish the tone? Is what the BT is saying there. And logically, anybody who's sticking to discipline is going to say, well, you punish that tone. It doesn't matter if what the words they said were appropriate.
They screamed when they
said it
said
the
that.
wrong way.
Yeah. I always tell parents, we'll work on the tone later. Like when I would work with teenagers.
I like that.
And even when I was doing remote, one of the moms told me like, she did it, but she rolled her eyes and walked away and told me she was going to go to her room. I'm like, that's amazing. We worked on this. We talked about this. Her room is her safe space. Did she do what you asked her to do? And we also worked on the way mom delivered instruction. Mom did amazing. I was so proud of her. I'm like, I wish I was there. And then I was like, but did she do it? She said, yes, but she rolled her eyes. We'll work on the rolling eyes later. And then I have this conversation about, she's a teenager. It's going to happen. I roll my eyes and I'm an adult. You can't ask me to not roll my eyes in certain situations. It's going to happen.
Look, Mom, you probably said something pretty ridiculous as far as your teenager was concerned. You may not think it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
She
Everything's
did,
ridiculous.
and that's okay. Yeah. I've got one at home. A 16-year-old, and I'm the worst. I can't say anything funny or accurate.
Aww.
So.
No jokes?
I don't know what I'm talking about. I can make the jokes. She's just not going to laugh.
Oh,
I'll
I'm
laugh.
sorry.
Oh, no, no. There it is.
I was like, what are you doing?
So basically, Kamila's saying, let's reinforce eye rolling, is what she's saying. It's okay if your teenagers eye roll. It's such a hard thing to explain to people because the general mantra of discipline is punishment. I'm going to raise my voice. I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to threaten to take something away. And we come along with this great reinforcement platform. And that's hard. That's hard. I think as a parent, and you might begin to feel this, you give an instruction once, twice, 3 times, and your child defies you. And there's a personal feel to that. Why you you're gonna I'm the one that's in charge here. Now you come in and you're teaching parents, you got to put that aside. Easier said than done. Any tricks you've got for that, any good phrasing you've got for that, what have you learned for yourself about that in terms of like, did you really just turn away from me? And how old's your child?
She's 17 months.
Oh, there's plenty of sass.
She says no so much.
Oh, she's in the no phase. That's what.
It started so early. It started at 15 months, and I'm like,
that is early.
Is this normal? And I'm like Googling too. I'm like, I know about child development, but this is like a lot. You're saying no a lot.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Oh yeah. She started with the shaking head no, which I'm like, yeah, great. We worked a lot on sign language, and then she started saying no at 15 months, and I was like, but does she know what she's saying no to? And then it kept going, and now it's a lot of no. Like, it's even like I'm playing with her, and no. I haven't even done anything yet. I do give her choices. No. I'm like, okay. And then sometimes I'll ask her, like, hey, do you want this snack? No. I'm like, okay, well, these are the snacks I have for you. And I'm really big on like, I'm not going to keep offering you more and more snacks. I gave you choices, and this is what I'm going to offer you at this time. But she's okay. She gets through it. It's interesting because there's certain things that I think of like, oh, this is so ABA, but it's not. It's such a normal thing to do, right?
I love that because you're right. You are noticing a contingency that you're putting forth.
Yeah.
So it's very true.
Yeah.
And then I like the other side of it too. Like even with behavioral challenges, being able to explain to parents, this isn't, I'm not a diagnostician. This isn't necessarily the autism. This is just your 5-year-old. Now, there may be language delays, communication difficulties that exacerbate this. I understand that. However, and it's hard to tease that apart. This is normal. All 5-year-olds will tantrum at least once a day between 1 and 5 minutes per the literature, right?
Yeah.
This is normal. Well, in our case, but they have autism. So normalcy within the autistic diagnosis behaviorally, that's a hard sell for parents sometimes. I got to do a little quick disclosure here, a story with my 4-year-old. We go do their grocery shopping every Saturday morning, and it's always a discussion. So yes, you're going to be able to buy a toy today. No, today is not a toy day. Okay. We're getting closer. It's fall now. We can start pitching the holidays. Oh, put that on your list. Okay. So yesterday.
Take a picture.
Oh,
Save
our
it.
favorite right now. I didn't have it. We could only take a picture in our minds when I was young. Now you can actually take a picture. So yesterday was we're going to go do the grocery shopping, and then we're going to the mall to pick up some of mom's jewelry. And there's stuff there that you're going to want. So you're going to have to choose. If you buy something at the grocery store, there's a lot of conditions here, then there's nothing to buy at the mall, right? It's a 4-year-old. So she decided to get something in the moment at the grocery store.
Exciting. It's right there.
Great. Something she'd been waiting for. We made it clear. Okay, good. Now that means when we go to the mall, of course, 4-year-old,
the mall has more.
You're going to stick to the deal. You're not going to want something else, of course, right?
That prefrontal cortex
I've primed her behaviorally.
You did
so
your
of
best.
course, this is.
You did the first thing.
Now we're ready. Yep, I did the conditionals. You bought this. You can't buy that. Right? Of course, it's going to work beautifully. Kamila said it would during our parent training session. So it's not going to go wrong. The child's not going to implode and cry all the way out of the mall after we.
No.
So
Not
that's
with
what
two
she did.
BCBA parents either.
Of course. So right, 2 BCBA parents and a school psychologist. Right, of course. No, she's going to behave perfectly. Right? I'm sure as we walked out of the mall, every parent in that mall was like, well, look at that bratty child who's probably used to getting whatever she wants all the time. See how it's hitting the ego already? So we were driving in the car back home, and this resonated with me, with what you were saying, and I started getting a little bit upset. It's I don't want to hear the smoke alarm, right? That's the example I use. That's the smoke alarm, and I'm fanning it, and it won't go off, and I'm really frustrated because I don't want to hear that sound anymore. And then she started saying, but I really want it. And you're driving away and some other kid's going to buy it.
Oh.
And in that moment, I was like, wow, that's really sad. Like, I get it. Now, it didn't completely make my irritation go away, but at least I had enough empathy to not raise my voice, yell back, all the things that I can tell parents all day long. But in that moment, I had to remember, and it was me listening to the words. I didn't like the sounds she was making, and I usually tell her that, those sounds are rough right now, you're okay. And then she was like, she started communicating with the words, and I was like, okay, kid.
You connected.
I see.
First.
Oh, look at that.
Connection before correction.
Connection before correction. We're going to run with that one.
Yep.
You've published that one yet? You got to copyright that sucker. That's got a TikTok video written all over it. Are you kidding? That's going to go viral. What do we do here? No, that's fantastic. That. Yeah, I think it's really important to embrace those things. And again, I talk about the 80-20 rule, right? Or 90-10. I think that there's going to be a margin of error where you get to show your kids that I too have emotions and
that's
lose
healthy.
my cool. But, if you're going over that 20% mark, maybe you need to reconsider and pull back on some things. And my teenagers have taught me a lot about that as of late. The pull back, I really want more time with you. You guys are moving in different directions. I've raised you to be independent, and now I'm trying to stifle your independence and getting mad when you tell me you're going to go do something else. That doesn't make any sense. But without, sitting back and using that introspection, you might fail the connection. And the connection might not mean time together all the time. It means in that instance, in that circumstance. Yeah.
Over time, build the relationship and trust will come.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
And I will end with that chuckle because this concludes part 1 of our interview with Kamila Jacob. Please do return for part 2 and
always analyze responsibly.
ABA on Tap is recorded live and unfiltered. We're done for today. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. See you next time.